The story of how Roman Emperor Caracalla was assassinated makes for an interesting example of common knowledge. I want to warn you, though, this story might not be true. This is from a period in Roman history that's not very well documented. Now, Caracalla was a really nasty person. He was called the common enemy of mankind by one of the leading historians of Rome. Caracalla will end up being assassinated by Macrinus. Macrinus was the commander of the Praetorian Guard under the emperor. The purpose of the Praetorian Guard was to protect the emperor from, ironically, from assassination. So they were the bodyguard of the emperor, kind of similar to the Secret Service in the United States. Macrinus ends up killing his emperor because of a prophecy that Macrinus will kill the emperor and take his place. Just put yourself in the shoes of Macrinus. So your job is to guard the emperor, and the emperor is pretty bloodthirsty. Probably like any Roman emperor, he's certainly going to kill you if he thinks you're a threat to him. There's a prophecy being announced that you are going to kill the emperor and usurp him and take his place. The emperor doesn't yet know of the prophecy, but you're pretty sure he's going to find out. Well, maybe the only way you can save yourself is to kill the emperor first, and that's what ended up happening. And ironically, Macrinus killed the emperor, and then he ended up taking the place of the emperor. So the prophecy became self-fulfilling. I want to explore when we should have expected that the prophecy would cause violence between the emperor and Macrinus. So, either the emperor is going to kill Macrinus, or Macrinus is going to kill the emperor, or Macrinus will try to kill the emperor, and then certainly the emperor would have retaliated and killed Macrinus. And I'm going to relate this to common knowledge concerning whether the prophecy was false. So you can imagine it was common knowledge that the prophecy was false, so that would mean the emperor knows it's false. Macrinus knows, the emperor knows, Macrinus knows, the emperor knows, and so on, often to infinity. But it's also possible that the prophecy being false was not common knowledge, and we're going to consider when there are deviations from common knowledge, when might those deviations be enough for there to be violence between these two figures? Now, as always, when I want to apply a simple game theory model, I've really got to simplify the situation. So I'm just going to create two rules. So assume that the following two things you see on the screen are true. The first is the emperor is going to definitely learn about the prophecy if he is not killed first. And the second rule is that Macrinus will try to assassinate the emperor if and only if he thinks the emperor will probably try to kill him if the emperor is himself not killed. So Macrinus, in our reality, he ends up succeeding in killing the emperor and then becoming emperor himself. But when he tried to do it, he probably gave himself relatively low chances of succeeding. So he probably thought, God, I'm definitely dead if I don't try to kill the emperor, and if I do try to kill it, maybe I got a 20% chance of survival. So I'm going to assume for the rest of this video, the game I'm going to present, that Macrinus will only make the attempt to kill the emperor if he figures, if I don't make the attempt, more likely than not, the emperor is going to kill me because of this prophecy. So we're now going to go through 4 different scenarios and see in each that there will be violence between the emperor and Macrinus. And in each, there's a deviation from common knowledge of the prophecy being false. So one way it might not be common knowledge that the prophecy is false is that the emperor believes the prophecy. Well, if the emperor believes the prophecy, then when the emperor finds out, he'll kill Macrinus, and or Macrinus might kill the emperor first. But there's definitely going to be violence if the emperor believes the prophet. He believes in prophecy. Our second example, let's say the emperor disbelieves the prophecy. The emperor is not superstitious. He doesn't believe in prophecy. But Macrinus doesn't realize that. Macrinus thinks that the emperor will believe the prophecy. So the emperor doesn't believe the prophecy, and perfectly possible Macrinus doesn't believe the prophecy, but Macrinus falsely thinks that the emperor is going to believe the prophecy when he hears it. Well, in this case, obviously, Macrinus is going to try to kill the emperor, because Macrinus is going to think falsely, but still think, when the emperor hears this, He's the kind of guy that's going to believe the prophecy and he's going to try to kill me, so I've got to kill him first. So we see, even though the emperor thinks the prophecy is false, the prophecy being false is not common knowledge because Macrinus falsely thinks that the emperor thinks it's true. And that's enough for there to be violence between these two people. Right. Now things start to get a little bit difficult to understand. So in the third example, the emperor does not believe the prophecy. He's not superstitious. He doesn't think the prophecy is true. Macrinus knows that about the emperor. He knows the emperor does not believe prophecies. Macrinus does not think that the emperor is going to hear the prophecy and be worried. Macrinus knows that. But still, the prophecy being false is not common knowledge because the emperor thinks that Macrinus thinks that the emperor believes. Now, this is the hard part. Try to get your minds around what the sentence means. The emperor thinks that Macrinus thinks that the emperor will believe in the prophecy. So the emperor is saying to himself, I know this prophecy is utter crap, but I think the guy in charge of my guards will think that I believe the prophecy is true. So then the emperor will say, boy, I better kill Macrinus because he's going to think that I'm going to think he's going to try to kill me. And so I better kill him first. So Macrinus knows that the emperor knows the prophecy is false, but the emperor doesn't know that. The emperor thinks that Macrinus will think that the emperor is superstitious and will believe in the prophecy, even though Macrinus knows that the emperor doesn't believe in the prophecy, and this will cause the emperor to feel he has to kill Macrinus because the emperor will think that Macrinus will think that the emperor is going to try to kill him. And it's really dangerous, right? If the head of your guard thinks you're going to try to kill him, you better kill the head of your guard first. So, even if we have this deviation of common knowledge where the emperor thinks Macrinus thinks that the emperor believes in the prophecy, there's going to be violence between these two individuals. Right. Recursion warning. This stuff is now getting really tough to understand. When you get multiple layers of recursion, you're going to read it and it's just not going to make sense, at least at first. So just be aware. Almost everyone watching this video who hasn't dealt extensively with recursion is going to be lost for a while when they contemplate 4. But let's talk about what's going on in 4. So in 4, the emperor knows, prophecies are utter crap. I don't believe them. And Macrinus knows, yeah, the emperor definitely doesn't believe in prophecy. And because the emperor knows that Macrinus knows that the emperor doesn't believe in prophecy. So the emperor is saying to himself, I know this prophecy is crap, and I know the head of my guard knows that I think this prophecy is crap. But the deviation from common knowledge is that Macrinus thinks that what we did in the third example is true. So Macrinus thinks that the emperor thinks that Macrinus thinks that the emperor believes in prophecy. And remember, we're talking about the deviations from common knowledge. So the common knowledge situation would be it's common knowledge that prophecies are crap, and we have this slight deviation. But there's still going to be violence between these two, because if Macrinus thinks that 3 is true, well, in 3, the emperor is going to try to kill Macrinus. So if Macrinus thinks the emperor is going to try to kill him, he's going to try to kill the emperor. Now, again, I admit this is really tough to understand. Don't worry if you're not getting it. Try to read it multiple times, and even then, honestly, a lot of you aren't going to get it because this is really difficult if you haven't encountered recursion a lot before. I could continue with this. I could make statement 5. Statement 5, I could write statement 4, where Macrinus would know that 3 is false, but then statement 5, E would be the emperor thinks that 4 is true, and then I could go to 6, 7, 8, and I could, you could keep going forever, literally. Gets really difficult to understand, but this is another example where a slight deviation from common knowledge can have a big effect compared to whether a situation is common knowledge. Thank you for listening to me.